Warning, this audio review does contain spoilers for the movie Lazer Team. If you have not seen it yet and you want to, pause this video and go watch this first. This is the only warning you are going to get. Lazer Team is the first full-length motion picture from Rooster Teeth Productions, and one that has been in the works from a story perspective for quite some time. It holds the record as one of the fastest crowd-funded films of all time, and stars the acting talent of Colton Dunn, Ritchson, and Allie DeBerry, as well as our usual lovable doofuses over at the Company of Cockbites. Going into this movie, my first biggest fear was that this was going to turn into a stereotypical Comedy Central comedy movie that is all stupid humor, with none of the dry wit and sarcastic charm that has made Rooster Teeth so appealing all of these years. At the end of the movie, I can safely say my worries on that front were completely erased. Lazer Team is without a doubt a Rooster Teeth production. Every joke landed, every line was delivered with the typical fashion that we'd expect from guys like Burnie and Gavin, and the non-Rooster Teeth actors roll with the dialogue very well. The fact that I saw it with a crowd of people who were all fans and understood all of the in-jokes certainly helped my enjoyment of the film, but I feel even a room full of casual moviegoers would have gotten some kind of a kick out of it. Okay, the plot isn't anything complicated. In fact, it's almost insultingly simple. An alien race is coming to destroy the planet, and another alien race, the Altarians, is gracious enough to bestow a suit of armor to Earth's champion in order to combat it. But unfortunately, the night it arrives, it ends up in the hands of four of the unluckiest bastards on the face of the planet: the deputy, the former high school football star, the current high school football star, and the town idiot, each one getting one piece of the armor, and now they have only 4 days to train before the aliens come to destroy us all. The cast works well together, mainly in that 3 of the main 4 have had about 5 years or so to get their shtick together, but Colton Dunn fits in so well you'd think he'd been there all along. Ritchson and Allie DeBerry are okay. I wasn't particularly enamored by either of them. As for the minor characters, the Army Lieutenant is awkwardly funny, and it was fun to play Spot the Rooster Teeth employee as well. I even saw one of my Guardian team leaders as well during the pool scene. That was pretty cool. The special effects are, well, about what you'd expect from a production like this. I've seen far worse, but I wouldn't call them anything substantial. The CGI looks like the kind of CGI you'd see on the internet. They were never going to hit James Cameron level of CGI. The explosions and the slow-mo are fun, though, even if they hit the slow-mo button just one too many times. The practical effects and makeup are pretty good, and there's one CGI scene towards the end that I honestly found to be pretty well done. The action scenes aren't exactly well choreographed, in fact they're kind of a mess, but they're enjoyable, and at least I can understand clearly what's going on as opposed to literally any Michael Bay movie in existence. Now, I said before that the humor was still very sarcastic and witty, but that doesn't mean it doesn't dissolve into a fair amount of pointless dick humor as well. Fortunately, this really only comes from Zach, whose sole reason for existing seems to be for making endless amounts of penis jokes, and the fact that he spends half the movie desperately trying to pee in Mindy's butt. Otherwise, Hagan and Woody fill the roles of the straight men, for lack of a better word, to the comic buffoonery of their two companions, and I've always enjoyed the dry bite in which Burnie delivers his lines, and it's no different here. And my second biggest fear for this movie was that Herman could not be any more of a racial stereotype if he spent the entire film with a bucket of fried chicken tucked under his arm. But thankfully, while the movie makes no attempt to hide the fact that he's the token black character, it's never unbearably so, and actually his storyline with Hagan is probably the most interesting side plot of the movie. I mean, yeah, it's not exactly a new idea, bitter history between two former friends that remains to present day, but the question in this day and age is not, is this original, but rather, can you tell me the same story and still make me care? And in this case, they did. The hints were spaced out just enough that we didn't forget they were there, but they also weren't thrown in our face every 2 seconds. A healthy balance. And Burnie and Colton play off each other very well and have a good amount of chemistry to make their scenes work. The suit itself is like a 5th member of the team. Although each part is broken up, they all feel like one, which is sort of the point, and in turn makes the team like one. But oddly enough, the piece that turns out to be the most beneficial to them is not the laser or the shield, but the helmet, which in turn, ironically, makes Woody the star player of the team as he progressively grows more intelligent as the film progresses. Kind of like how Ringo was the reason the Beatles stayed together for as long as they did, Woody is really the glue that holds the team together. He's the one who figures out what's happening, he explains the situation out, and when things are dire, he's the one who usually figures out the way to save the day. Yeah, Hagan is the leader, but without Woody, this team would have been chewed up and spit out before you could say Uncle Sam. Now, the third greatest fear I had was about the female characters, and unfortunately, that was where the movie really dropped the ball. Not like I was expecting some great feminist piece. In fact, what I was expecting was more or less what I got. But it's still kind of embarrassing, I'd say. Allie DeBerry flits between being the movie's sex symbol to being the damsel in distress, with really only 2 defining moments of badass, one of them being when she's under possession by an alien race. But honestly, her whole purpose for being in the movie is being the love interest for Zach. And by the way, as a 6-year senior, wouldn't that make him like 19 or 20 or so? How old is Mindy? Because assuming she's not a senior in 18, this movie raised all sorts of red flags that I'm amazed no one has called Rooster Teeth out on yet. But anyway, while I wasn't exactly expecting a female empowerment out of a Rooster Teeth production, I just have to make a note that when you only have 2 vaguely prominent female characters in your movie and both of them are over-sexualized, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. Also, that Russian scientist lady, yeah, we saw her entire performance in the trailer. She's in 2 scenes and then she's never seen again. Never even gets a name. I mean, neither does Gus, but he's been playing a scientist on the internet for so long that Dr. Gus has basically become his own person. And if it seems like I'm glossing over Alan Ritchson, it's because I'm really struggling to come up with things to talk about with him. He spends over half the movie bitching about how his birthright was stolen from him. And granted, the situation is less than ideal, but having been in military custody his entire life, you'd think he would learn that plans change and you have to adapt with them. Although he probably has stunted emotional growth because of that, come to think of it. But his only real moment of awesome is at the end, and it's more of a blaze of glory, but otherwise his character is pretty bland. Now, I said before that the story was incredibly simple, and the problem with that is that it also makes the story incredibly predictable. The big twist with the war turning out to be a big sporting event for the Altarians was something I had correctly figured out within the first couple of scenes in the movie, and the one major character death I could see coming from 10 miles away without the need for binoculars. Again, I still care enough to see how it ended, and truth be told, I wasn't really expecting an original masterpiece, but it's a knock off the score when instead of being surprised by the twist, I just found it fairly obvious, and I didn't really get all that choked up about the death. Also, in regards to the 4 evil aliens, I feel the big twist sort of leaves them hanging in the wind. Okay, so their whole shtick is that they're trying to steal the suit of power from the Lazer Team so that their champion will be the automatic victor, essentially sabotaging the game in their favor. However, when the villain champion arrives, we find that he also has a suit of power that the other aliens gave to him, and that he's way more efficient with it than they are. Which basically means that their entire plan to sabotage Lazer Team was completely and utterly pointless. Also, why didn't anyone call them on that? The Altarian alien said he wanted to make it a clean and even fight, but why didn't anyone bring up to them this blatant show of unsportsmanship? I mean, they have to have known about it. It happened right under the fucking UFO. Or has the wars just destroyed that many planets that there really was no point in making things fair for the humans? Oh, and there's this whole nuclear warhead subplot that does nothing and goes nowhere that only serves to make a couple of Independence Day jokes. Correction, 1 Independence Day joke that is repeated by 2 different people. Also, can you imagine how much pain Adam would have been in if he had to put on all 4 pieces at once? Just looking at how much pain 1 piece was per person, if he hadn't passed out from all of it, I would have been impressed. But overall, Lazer Team was a fun ride from beginning to end. I've heard it called the anti-Pixels, and I would have to agree with that. It's definitely Pixels if it had better acting, better directing, and better writing. It's no masterpiece by any means, and I would hesitate to call it Rooster Teeth's finest work, but it about met my expectations for what to expect from it, and I had fun with it. If you're a fan of Rooster Teeth, you're probably going to want to watch this no matter what, and if you're not, well, chances are you'll still get a couple of laughs out of it. Just don't expect anything amazing from it, because it's going to fall short of your expectations. But yeah, having seen the film twice now, I can say it gets a pass from me, and it looks like it's going to get a sequel, or at least the ending leaves it wide open for a sequel, so here's hoping the next go-around is even better. Alright, that's it for now. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.